Hey guys, this is Pat, coming at you with another Dark Souls 3 boss recording. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a snafu this time. I actually lost all my footage for the previous boss, the Crystal Sage. I guess I shouldn't really say I lost it, I just never really had it to begin with. I have been using the built-in PlayStation 4 sort of record feature where it tracks your gameplay as you go, and then you can just hit a button and you can save, up to like the last 15 minutes or something like that. Unfortunately, I waited, I think, a little too long to record the footage after the Crystal Sage, so by the time I had hit that share button, I think it had started a new segment, so I only had a few seconds of footage and had completely lost anything from the boss fight. So I thought that to sort of make up for that, I would include some extra footage of me sort of clearing the area leading up to the next boss, which is the Deacons of the Deep, and just kind of walk through that boss, walk through the Crystal Sage boss in the meantime. So the Crystal Sage is at the end of the Cursed Road, or the Crucifixion Road or something like that. Real pleasant sounding place. That area is filled with lots and lots of hollows, undead, whatever, including probably one of my least favorite mobs in the game. At this point at the time of recording this, I have beaten the whole game. Although I think there's an optional area or two that I missed that I need to go back to. But so far, these mobs with the hollows with the giant tree branches are probably my least favorite in the game. You do have to watch out for them. They've got a very long reach, longer than you'd expect, and they do this sort of charging attack as if they're holding a lance with that giant tree branch that they're holding, which wouldn't really be that big of a deal, except that many of them come in packs of 3 to 4, and so when they do that all at the same time or in quick succession of each other, it's actually very hard to dodge. It does quite a bit of damage, and I almost guarantee you're not going to have enough poise to stay standing up through that. So anyway, once you get to the end of the Cursed Road, you will find the Crystal Sage, who is essentially just a big undead caster with a giant witch hat, and he just casts these crystal spells at you with a very distinct purple hue, which is important. I'll explain why in a minute or so. He has a few spells that he really likes to cast. They probably have names. I don't know what they are. I've never gone caster in a Souls game, really, except for dabbled in Pyromancy in Dark Souls 1 a little bit. So forgive me if I don't know the spell names, but one of them is where he sort of casts like 6 to 8 little orbs above his head, and they'll kind of fly at you in quick succession. One looks more like a heavy soul arrow or something like that, but it's kind of got this distinct crystal look. And then the last one is a very slow-moving crystal orb that tracks to you, but it is very slow. So none of these really are much of a threat, especially if you know they're coming. The crystal orb easily does the most damage. However, like I said, it is the slowest, and despite the fact that it tracks to you, it's quite easy to dodge if you know it's coming. So what you want to do is basically just rush him, and I would suggest, even if you're a caster, probably you might want to just pull out your melee weapon and just beat him down, because once you've gotten him into melee range, there's really not much he can do to counter you. So you basically just want to smack him down and just do quick attacks until you're out of stamina, essentially, because what's going to happen is after a few hits, he's going to sort of sink into the ground and teleport to a new location. So the longer you can keep hitting him, the longer you can sort of delay that from happening and get just more free damage on him. Once he teleports to a new location, he's going to basically just use the same series of attacks. So just once again, run up to him, make sure to dodge any spells that he casts at you along the way, and then just start wailing on him with your melee weapon from there. Once he gets to phase 2 at 50% health, the next time he teleports, he's actually going to also bring in 3 or 4 clones with him. The clones appear identical, but there's a few differences that help you pick them out. The most obvious one is that their spells have a very blue hue to them. So that's the easiest way to distinguish the clones from the real one is the purple versus the blue spells. Other than that, they seem to cast the same spells, except perhaps that slow-moving orb that tracks to you. I don't believe they have a blue version of that, so you don't have to worry about that one. They do also only have 1 health, so they'll go down in 1 hit. So what I would recommend doing is as soon as he pops up with those clones, just immediately run to the first one that you see and get a swing in before they're able to cast any of their spells. If it's a clone, it'll go down in one hit, and that's just one less clone to worry about. The reason I recommend going for the clones first is because these spells, kind of by nature, they're easy to dodge, but once you get hit by one, because they come at you in such quick succession when there's, 2 or 3 clones left in the arena, you'll end up eating all of them if you get hit by just one, which could be an instant death right there. So you definitely want to take out those clones first, or at least get all but one, maybe 2 of them taken care of. Once you are feeling comfortable with the sort of clone situation, you can go ahead and go for the real one, who again is going to be casting purple spells at you. And just do the same thing as before, just run up to his face and start wailing on him. He doesn't have any new tricks up his sleeve really, aside from these clones, so nothing changes there. He will, anytime he teleports to a new location, he is going to summon a new set of clones from here on out, so you do have to be wary of that. You might have to clear the clones a total of 2, maybe even 3 times, depending on how much damage you can do before he does that teleport. Aside from that, he's actually a really easy boss fight. I think I got him on my second try the first time I died, only because I didn't really know what I was doing with those clones, and I think, like I said, I sort of got caught up after getting hit by one spell and then just ate 3 or 4 more before I could even recover, and then that was that. So, as long as you are wary of the clones, try to clear them out quickly, and watch out for any spells that are coming your way, you really shouldn't have any trouble. Okay, so having described the Crystal Sage strategy that I used, I can now talk about the actual fight that's coming up here. And just to kind of keep the video sort of a continuous flow, I'm going to sort of talk about the approach to this boss arena as we go, and just, kind of what I was doing here. So, I just rested at a bonfire, and I will be initiating the next boss, which is the Deacons of the Deep, before resting again. So this is kind of what I felt was the optimal route to the boss arena. I'd actually already found the fog gate before on my previous run, but I turned around because I think I was out of Estus at the time, so I knew I was going to need to sort of make this run back. By this point, I was pretty sick of this area. I died here quite a few times to just the normal enemies, so that's why I kind of dropped off that ledge there. I figured I would just eat the Estus flask. I didn't really care much at that point, just to save the time of skipping some other mobs and just the run in general by that point. I hadn't explored this, so I thought maybe there was some sort of boss here as well, so that's kind of why I saved that for when I had some Estus again. But as you can see, all I found was the Saint Blade, or sorry, Saint Bident. I never ever used this in the game. I didn't have any faith in my build. So, I never had the stats for this one, but I mean, it looks neat, I guess. Maybe someday I'll replay, give it a shot. And don't forget the homeward bone over there. So at this point, I'm just going to start heading towards the boss arena, because I think those large double doors was the only other area that I hadn't really explored yet here. Unfortunately, there is some, knee-deep water here, so you move extra slowly unless you roll through it like I did. I believe I have since read that there are some daggers that have a weapon art that actually make this much less painful, because you can just sort of dash through it, and it doesn't even matter if you run out of mana, FP, whatever it's called. You can just keep using it indefinitely, apparently, and so it makes it a lot easier. But that's a really short section. It's the swamp that is the part that you really have to worry about. I'm not even sure why I bothered with those guys. At this point, I knew I was heading for the boss, but for whatever reason I stopped and killed them anyway. Initially, there is a giant over here in the midst of all these leeches. That's kind of a fun little fight. The giant is not hard in himself, but when all these leeches are coming at you at the same time, it can make it just a little bit tricky. There's also this guy who always seems to land on that railing first. I'm not sure if that was just a coincidence that it happened for me pretty much consistently every time, or if that's the way it's designed. But yeah, he's some weird slug thing. I don't know. He's not tough at all. That room is actually quite tough, though, with a few of the larger knight enemies, the cathedral knights. I did not have a fun time with them. That was part of what led to the frustration of why I, was doing things like just jumping off that ledge and eating Festus. So just skip right past those as long as you've gotten the items in the area. So this is the actual Deacons of the Deep fight. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. They mostly just stand around in kind of a big mob, and then every once in a while they'll cast some spells at you, most of them fire-related. So you can just see I ate a fireball there. So at this point, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here, taking out as many of them as I can. Just got stabbed with a candlestick, the usual. So what it is there is actually one who's sort of the real Deacon of the Deep, and he's the only one whose health bar is going to contribute to the boss's health if you attack him. He's going to have this red flame, so you can see I finally got him, and that's when the boss's health finally got chipped away. I'm not sure if I realized this yet at that point, so I think I just sort of kept wailing away at whatever deacons sort of break from the pack. But here we go, I think I figured it out now, so I'm specifically targeting the ones with the red flame there. As long as you just keep moving and don't get surrounded, there's really nothing to worry about at this point. If you can't even get like a good shot at the one with the flame, don't even worry about it, because I think it looks like it's even jumping around from deacon to deacon without you necessarily having to kill the one who currently has it. So if they get, sort of too deep in the pack and you don't want to go for it, just kind of like pick them off where you can, and it'll switch around at some point. So here we go, he's kind of in the back of the pack, being a nice target of himself. It's kind of interesting watching this now, not playing it, but just observing. Clearly the pack keeps kind of regenerating somehow. Oh, they're literally just rising out of the ground, okay. So I was going to comment on how curious it was that despite killing them, the pack never seems to thin out. It's because they just, either get right back up or rise out of the ground. So that answers that. This is phase 2 now, where it gets only slightly trickier. There's just a few more spells. I think they just get more aggressive overall. There's a couple new spells that they cast, and then there's the big blue ones that you now have to worry about that are much more aggressive than sort of their counterparts. As you can see there, he took a big one and swing at me, and another big one did as well, who wasn't even blue, kind of followed suit. Just kind of diving in, getting my hits where I can, and if I take some damage, you have plenty of time to pop an Estus in this fight. I recently watched somebody's video where they ranked the boss fights from easiest to most difficult, and this was the easiest, and I have to say I would agree. This is my first attempt at the boss. I'm about to beat him in a second or two here. It's really not difficult at all, even having no idea what was going on coming in. It's very easy to figure out. The attacks are easy to dodge. There's just not much to it. It's an interesting fight, but it's not a challenging fight by any means. So at this point, I think I'm just looking to end it. I got a backstab there, totally accidental, but it was not on the real Deacon, so it didn't even really matter. And there we go, he goes down. So that's all that boss fight takes. Thanks for sort of patiently waiting through this kind of extra weird video. All the rest of the bosses I captured the footage appropriately, so this should be the only one where it happens. Thanks for watching.